reporting live from the Red Carpet Studios in Memphis. Thanks for watching Conversations with Betty Lamarr. Betty is renowned for her successful medical talk show, and now you're invited to watch this space for her new production, Conversations, which is laser focused on the health and social issues affecting Memphians and the Mid-South community.
Thank you for tuning in to Eye on Memphis. I'm your host, Betty Lamarr, and you're listening to KWAM The Voice, FM 107.9 and AM 990. Now, we are streaming on Facebook. Now, today I have a very interesting show. It's a very good show, even though it's not about a really good thing. I have 3 young people here with me in the studio today that have been living with type 1 diabetes since early childhood. So they're going to talk to us about and take us through their journey living with type 1 diabetes. You know, I always say this about diabetes. When people use the word cancer and children, everybody get really all worked up, naturally so. But the difference to me, between cancer, which is devastating, and type 1 diabetes, which is devastating, is that with cancer, sometimes you can have that luxury of going into remission. With type 1 diabetes, your body doesn't make insulin. So it's 24/7 around the clock. Diabetes doesn't decide one day to say, well, I'm going to give somebody a break here and I'll revisit them 6 months from now or a year from now. It is 24/7 around the clock. So I would like for you all to always consider supporting any effort out there to find a cure for type 1 diabetes. Because children are being diagnosed every day. Children are passing away every day due to T1D. Again, I'm your host, Betty Lamarr. You're listening to the Eye on Memphis talk show. Today, our eye is on type 1 diabetes. We'll be right back.
Eye on Memphis is sponsored by AM Diabetes and Endocrinology and Insulin Pump Center, the leading edge in diabetes care and technology.
Welcome back to Eye on Memphis. I'm your host, Betty Lamarr. And again, my guest in the studio today, we're talking about type 1 diabetes. And I have 3 guests in the studio, and they all were diagnosed with T1D when they were little kids. We're going to find out how old they were. And my guest today is Miss Hannah Williams, Maren Clark, and JT Forrester. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
All right, thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy day. Does anyone need to check their insulin?
Good right now.
That's my point, that when you have diabetes, it's always, even I'm sitting here thinking about it. Is everybody okay? Yeah. But that's the difference between type 1 diabetes and other diseases. Is something every minute do you need to check it? You okay? So if we have, you all have devices, right?
Yes.
All right, way to go. Okay, I want each one of you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, when you was diagnosed and all that. Hannah?
I'm Hannah Williams. I was diagnosed at 12 years old. I'm 23 now, and I work at Memphis Incredible Pizza Company as their group experience liaison.
Okay.
I'm Maren Clark. I was diagnosed at 16 months, and I'm currently 17 and a senior at Collierville High School.
All right. My name is JT Forrester. I was diagnosed at the age of 2. I'm currently 26, and I work at AM 360 Fitness. That's partnered with AM 360 Diabetes with Dr. Latif's office, and I'm also a team attendant for the Memphis Grizzlies.
All right. I love that. Despite type 1 diabetes, which is 24 hours, 7 days a week, even when you sleep, you still type 1 diabetes. I mean, living with it, I like to say. So I'm so proud of you all. And just for full disclosure, each one of these beautiful young people today that took the time out of their day to join me get their diabetes care from AM Diabetes. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's start with Hannah. What is a day like for you living with diabetes?
Absolutely. So actually, I'm on that ever since now, so it's a little bit easier than it used to be. I typically wake up and I have to check what my blood sugar is, depending on if it's high or low. That's kind of how I decide what breakfast is going to be. Bolus for that, go to work, try to keep an eye on it most of the day. I work at a buffet, so sometimes it's a little bit more difficult depending on how snacky I feel. But we bolus for everything we eat, so anything we put in our mouth, we have to take insulin for. And then go home. I have a dog that I take care of. He's training to be a diabetic alert dog, so we do training with that too. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, so what about you, Maren? What does a day look like for you?
So kind of like Hannah, I usually wake up, and that really sets the tone for the day. You know, if your blood sugar is high or low, it kind of either put me in a good mood or a bad mood, honestly.
It really controls the mood?
Yes. Emotions, big thing with that. That even goes into, because I'm still like a student at school, you know, if there's a big test or I'm stressed out, that totally affects my blood sugar, like 100%. What I'm doing, how much insulin I'm going to give. And then I'm a soccer player, so, you know, I'll go to practice after school, and managing my insulin and what I'm eating is a huge part of that. And just eat dinner accordingly. And
Okay, and JT?
So for me, it's a little bit different. I don't go to school, and I'm working, full time at the clinic. So I'm around diabetes all the time. So it's always on my mind. And then now that the season's about to start for the Grizzlies, it's going to be a little different when I'm out there with the players and stuff, and I'm kind of working with them to get ready for the game. I definitely have to manage how my blood is, and luckily enough, I have the pump that tells me what my blood is, so I can just look at my pump and say, oh, I'm low. Hey, I'm gonna go on my lunch dinner break or whatever. So it's a lot different than actually sitting there at a full-time job, because I'm at the clinic. I'm doing a lot of tours and showing them around the fitness center and everything. So I'm just back and forth, just talking to different people and such. But at the the Grizz games or whatever, I'm doing a lot of movement. I'm doing a lot of things, and that really affects how your blood sugar reacts to you.
And it's like it just goes back to me. Just imagine everybody for one moment that you're dealing with something like this. I associate insulin with a vital organ in your body because we have to have it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And without it, and people don't think about that when they think about type 1 diabetes. For some reason, people think that's like a no big deal kind of a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like, I don't know why. I guess maybe if you don't know anybody with it, or you're not diagnosed with it yourself, maybe you just don't. Maybe it's just a knowledge thing. Maybe you're just not educated about it. But every moment, you have to think about it. And when you use the word bolus, imagine being 3 years old and somebody got to talk about some bolus.
Right. Yeah.
What is bolus? Anybody?
So that's when you give yourself a dose of insulin for whatever food you're eating, or if your blood sugar is just out of range. And when I was learning to read, my mom actually made me like flashcards with all these diabetes terms on them to learn. So
There you go.
Man. So how did you all feel like when you were little children and you were diagnosed with diabetes? Because that was pre-pumps and all that, which we'll get in later. We have a whole segment about the AM Diabetes, first of its kind in the nation, Insulin Pump Center. You all know about that. But how did do you remember your first reaction when you got the diagnosis and getting injections and all of that? How did it feel to each one of you?
For me, I was 2, so I kind of, growing up with it, it was just kind of, click, I'd done. It was kind of like second nature to me. Just some things that kind of hit me were like when I went to, different like basketball games or to the fair or whatever, it's like, oh, you can't have that type of situation. And I would see all my friends like having cotton candy or whatever. And, it's like, oh,
like, why me?
Exactly. So just things like that. But now that I've gotten older, I'm more of I don't look at it as I can't have that. I say, how's it gonna cause what I'm gonna feel later on? Mm-hmm. And so I look for more of the futuristic, like, oh, I'm gonna feel bad if I have this, so I'm not gonna do it. So that's I don't know.
Yeah, I think mine was a little different. Since I was diagnosed at 12, I kind of remember that whole shift of going from you can eat what you want, you kind of live life and it's not a big deal, to you've got to think about this 24/7. And if you do one thing different the next day or one thing, quote unquote, wrong, it's completely going to change how you feel for either the rest of the day or even just for part of the day.
Man, ooh. I mean, really, how do you have time to? I just admire you all because when the thought of something that consumes me for 24/7, how can you even think about? I guess you have to have discipline to just think about something else when you got to think about this thing all the time. Like, what about sleeping, Maren? What about sleep time?
So I and my mom, in case I don't wake up, set alarms to wake up to check my blood sugar.
Still?
Oh,
man.
There's always that constant fear that something's going to happen and you're not going to wake up. I'm going to be really honest. It's always in the back of your head.
Wow. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's the difference. That's what people don't understand about type 1 diabetes. Even when you sleep, you got to hope you wake up the next morning.
Right.
That means even when you sleep, you're still on guard. It's like, man, I mean, people need to take it seriously because, God forbid anyone get diagnosed. But every time I hear about someone getting diagnosed, especially a child, I think about all of you all because I've had the good fortune to be around AM diabetes and just being around it. It's devastating. It really is.
And for me to kind of like reiterate what Maren was saying about the sleep thing, for me, I don't set an alarm. It's almost as if my blood gets low during the middle of the night, I'll have like a dream, and it almost like wake me up as soon as my blood gets low. And I mean, it is.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Russian roulette.
I mean, it's really weird. Like it's hard to.
Seeker.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to describe, but it's more of a in my dream. I kind of just wake up. Like I don't know. Like I can't. It's hard, but. I wake up,
like
roll out of bed.
Like an internal clock.
Yeah, I mean, I know what the feeling is.
Well,
so
make sure you keep batteries in that clock. That's all I have to say.
It really feels totally different with a low blood sugar. So sometimes when you are sleeping, I know this morning I had a low blood sugar at 4 a.m. I was like 40 something, and I just kind of woke up and kind of felt it, and it's weird because
kind of felt it.
Yeah.
What does it feel like? Kind of felt it.
It's really hard to describe. For me, it's like a heavy feeling, like I feel like I can't move. I kind of almost feel paralyzed for a minute.
Really?
Yeah, it's a little scary, but once I can get myself up and going and get that snack, it's like just that waiting game of when is this going to affect my blood sugar? Bring it up quickly, or is it going to take an hour? Most of the time, it doesn't take too long, but yeah. So it's a weird
sluggish,
feeling. Yeah.
Like you have no energy. You don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
Type situation.
Like you're
is
drained.
that lethargic word?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lethargic.
I think the first time I interviewed Ami, I think that was a word that he used to describe.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
That's all me.
Because he was diagnosed at 11 months?
11 months.
Like that?
He was a baby.
Man, but actually I'm just very proud of you all because, you all, despite living with diabetes, you all are still forging ahead and not giving up. And I know you have some frustrations. So for each one of you, give me like a moment when you was just really frustrated. What was going on in your life and diabetes was just a frustration for you?
So because I play soccer, obviously that's going to affect my blood sugar a lot. And my biggest personal problem isn't actually managing the diabetes. It's having to say, okay, my blood sugar is low. It is high. I need to take a step back and sit out. And it's the most frustrating thing to have to sit back from something you love because there's this thing I didn't even ask to have. And you feel really victimized, and then you get upset because you don't want to feel like that either. Definitely when it keeps you away from the things you love.
Now, JT.
Yes. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, I'm going there.
Oh.
So, you're a young man, right?
Yes.
So, you're at that age where you can date and all that good stuff.
Yes.
So, have you ever had a situation where you may liked a girl or something or whatever, and when she found out that person found out that you had diabetes, have you ever had anyone that just didn't understand?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's more of, I feel like, I can't speak on behalf of those females, but I feel like it's more of a a culture shock for them. I feel like I feel like when I'm at dinner or whatever, or meeting their parents, it's more of a
You got a bolus.
what's that? Like, what's that on clipped on your hip? And it's like, oh, well, that's my pump for my diabetes. And it's like, what is diabetes? And then I have to go
What
through the
is
whole.
diabetes?
That's a good question. Yeah.
That's a lot of people get the misconception of, oh, you got this because you ate too bad, like too much sugar or too much thing, and it's like
when you were little,
that's not true. So
Yeah, you ate too much. What is it?
A lot of people-
Candy.
yeah, exactly.
A lot of people will blame the parents actually because they'll say that they fed us too much sugar, they gave us Coke too young, or something like that.
They need to be educated. And that's what this show is all about. And speaking of insulin pumps, what we're going to do now, we're going to take a break.
All right.
And we're going to come back because I think everybody that's sitting here with me have a device.
Yes.
And pretty soon we'll be getting a call from AM Diabetes Center. And I think it would be Janice Curtis.
All right.
And she's going to just sort of let everybody know what all the services that AM Diabetes have that you all are so privy to have. And eventually, don't let me forget, I do want to ask you all about your experience with AM Diabetes and why your parents chose AM Diabetes for you. Okay, you're listening to Eye on Memphis. I'm your host, Betty Lamarr. And
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsor, AM Diabetes and Endocrinology Center. Now, back to Eye on Memphis with Betty Lamarr.
Well, welcome back. Again, my very special guest in the studio today is Miss Hannah Williams, Maren Clark, and J.T. Forrester. I thought my little Back to Betty was going to introduce you all for me so I wouldn't trip up on your names, but it didn't happen that time, and I think I did pretty good. I have no excuse, right? I'm not living with teenagers. So, I mean, I should be on top of my game. But anyway, I believe we have some Miss Janice Curtis calling us from AM Diabetes and Endocrinology Center, first ever insulin pump center in the nation. Good morning, Janet.
Good morning, everyone. How are you today?
We're all good. So, Janet, tell us a little bit about AM Diabetes Center, and I know it's comprehensive, so there's a lot going on there. So just, if you will, enlighten our viewers and listeners to what AM Diabetes have going on Cape Bond Road.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Okay.
I believe the center stands out among the country for many, many different reasons. First would be one of the things you mentioned is the fact that we are the first in the nation and the country that has an insulin pump center. So anyone that is on a medical device, insulin pumps, we have a specific phone line for them. We have a specific area that they walk in, they check in, and they're not really integrated with just all the other diabetic or thyroid or the other type of diseases that we manage there. So they have their special place. We cater to that. I believe that we are on the cutting edge of technology at all times. We've got new, the Eversense, which a couple of your panel there have discussed that's there, and maybe they can allude to what all that is.
Oh, yes, that's our next segment. That's why we needed you as a lead in to that.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And what about your diabetes education? How important is it to manage diabetes?
Well, we feel that the education is a cornerstone of managing diabetes. So that has to do with all types of diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2. We do have an American Diabetes Association approved program. Those are kind of hard to find, and they're very difficult to get the approval of the ADA on your program. So this is a class that is offered every Wednesday. You do not have to be a patient at AM Diabetes to partake in the class, but it is held every Wednesday morning, and it goes from 8 a.m. until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We have diabetic educators. We have nutritionists. We have just a gamut of, it's a wonderful variety class. They have a break for lunch. They have opportunities to ask questions, go over food and how to mix the foods that you eat, what's good for you, just details that you really need to live a healthy life. We have found that class alone, when people go to that and have their follow-up, typically their A1C has dropped by a full point.
Knowledge is power if you use it.
Yes, that's absolutely true. So the education, we feel, is a cornerstone to anyone living with diabetes, and it's a big program. So we have that every Wednesday, but we also have it for those who can attend during the week, one Saturday a month, and that's typically the last Saturday of the month.
Okay.
But we have a very comprehensive program.
Yes, because you have a research clinic there, and now fitness center. What else am I missing? Because you all do it all there. I know that.
Right, and we have several researches that are being conducted at this time. You can even go on to our Facebook page and see the different types of research that we're conducting and what we're needing, because we need people to participate in some of the studies. One of the studies has to do with newly diagnosed children with type 1 diabetes, and we need it within the first 6 weeks of diagnosis. So that is very critical, because this drug has been in some other studies before, and they're finding that it prolongs what they call the honeymoon stage by up to 2 years. Ooh. So that means it would stop the full-blown type 1 diabetes from happening for about 2 years. And I know anybody would just be thrilled to be able to have that happen.
Well, thank you, Miss Janet Curtis, for calling in. And thank Dr. Kashif Latif, number one, AM Diabetes, for sponsoring Eye on Memphis, and especially our health segments. Really appreciate it. Your support means so much. You know, Janet, I tell people sometimes it seems like you get more support if you're on the radio screaming out hate and negativity and being ugly than when you're trying to help people. But I rise. So thank you so much, Janet, and I'll see you at the center.
All right. Thank you, Miss Betty, and you all have a wonderful day, and thank you for bringing attention and awareness to type 1 diabetes.
Exactly, because it can be so devastating in a person's life.
Yes, ma'am.
And your daughter, before I let you go, your daughter also was diagnosed with T1D. How old was she?
She was 11 years old at the time of diagnosis.
So you know firsthand how this stuff goes.
Yes, ma'am. I know from the parental side, the sleepless nights, waking up at least every 2 hours every night. Sometimes you don't sleep during the night because you have to check every 15 minutes. If it's too low, you have to just keep administering, something to bring the blood sugar up, whether it's used peanut butter crackers and, Skittles, you name it, we've done it. And sometimes they can't even chew, they're so sleepy. So I feel like these kids are heroes for living with their disease and living it well, and bringing attention and awareness. And, I hate that, in a sense, their childhood has been robbed from them. They didn't have a typical childhood, but let me tell you that the children, the youth, the young people that I know that have lived with this disease, use your same words, they rise above.
Yes.
Disease, and they are all fabulous, wonderful people of society.
Well, all right. Now, that was good. I love Janet. She's so sweet.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah, she's like my right hand in marketing, let me tell you. But okay, now, Hannah, speaking of forging ahead, I was so very proud of you. You was in a pageant.
Yes.
And I came to the pageant. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you what really, I was so proud of you because you was owning your T1D.
Thank you.
And I remember when you came out in your swimsuit and everything, you had your insulin pump. It was like, she just owned it. And everybody was like, what is that?
Yeah.
I mean, is this a part of her swimsuit? But I was just so proud. I said, she's owning her.
Thank you.
Like, yes. So now let's talk about these devices.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the devices. I want each one of you, starting with you, JT, the male. I said, we have a male in the studio today, and that male ego, we got that male ego in the house.
Wait a minute.
Oh yeah, the male ego in the house. So back to the girlfriends, right? That's male ego going on. So let's talk about your device. What device are you? What do you all call on or wearing? You on it?
I'm on it. I think I'm wearing it.
On you.
It's wearing me really. No, this is my second pump I've ever used. This is called the 670G.
Oh, that's the artificial pancreas.
Yeah, pretty much. It comes with a CGM like Janet was mentioning, which is the continuing.
Is your little wire? Okay, now can
Pump.
you sort of see
You
that?
can see it. So,
Perfect. Okay.
pretty much, the CGM is the continuous glucose monitor, which is like a patch, another sensor on you, and it really just kind of it takes away from you checking your blood sugar so often during the day. Before the sensor, I was checking it maybe 8 times a day.
Oh man,
Maybe.
how do you go back to how do you have time?
You got to make time, yeah.
Anything else but your blood sugar.
Now, I will admit that during school, I would make time to check my blood and say, I got to go do this. It's a part of me.
Yeah.
So I've got to do it. No, but with the CGM, it's a whole lot easier to, like when I'm at games or if I'm at work and I could just look down and say, oh, I'm 150 or something or whatever. Unfortunately, I fell off last night. My sensor did, so it's charging right now. So when I get home, I've got to put one
So
back
how
on.
do you know where you are right now?
Guesstimation.
Is there endocrinologist in the house?
Shame on me, right?
Yeah, we probably ways from a Diabetes Center now. Hold on.
Yep, we
Okay,
are.
what about you, Maren? What device are you using?
So I'm on the same insulin pump as JT, but I actually don't use the Medtronic sensor that comes with it. I'm on what's called the Eversense. Janet mentioned it. And what it is it's also a continuous glucose monitor, but the sensor itself is actually implanted usually in your arm under your skin, and then just a transmitter is stuck with tape on top of your skin. So if it were to rip off, I don't really have to go home and put in a whole new one with a needle. I just literally stick a new piece of tape on and put the transmitter on, and it's been life-changing, honestly.
So the needle is so they had to implant it.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you have one too?
I love it.
I'm the odd man out.
Wow. It looks like a little, what?
Right, yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
And
Okay,
you would
so-
think that me working at the clinic, I would, be a guinea
Have
pig.
one.
I don't have one.
Wait a
You should
minute.
get one.
You need one.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
the
have one.
best.
Okay.
So-
I do this segment called Things That Just Don't Make Sense.
I think that's one of them.
If anybody would like to pay for it,
Oh, what?
I mean, shout out to y'all. So
Yeah, we have to start. What you call those?
the GoFundMe, yeah.
GoFundMe for JT to get a Eversense sensor. Okay, speaking of that, now, Hannah.
Yeah.
Besides the Eversense, what else do you have?
I'm on the same pump as Maren and JT, so we all have the same pump, but me and Maren both have the Eversense.
So most people now, have they finally stepped up to the 670G, or do you think there's still people out there with the older ones?
I know there's definitely people still with older pump models. I think a big thing is the cost of it with insurance and everything. A lot of people can't afford to get the new pump or to upgrade their new pump. I think this pump by itself is over $4,000. So it's kind of hard depending on what they're doing.
And 24/7 round the clock.
Yes.
So if you all decide right now, like to rebel against diabetes, just snatch everything off and don't check your sugar, what will happen?
Oh, well.
I'm about to say, I was gonna say, I do this about 48 hours.
Slow down.
Yeah, we'll be doing
Not fun.
another dedication at the AM Diabetes Center.
We don't want to do that.
No, we don't.
Reporting live from the Red Carpet Studios in Memphis. Thanks for watching Conversations with Betty Lamarr. Betty is renowned for her successful medical talk show, and now you're invited to watch this space for her new production, Conversations, which is laser focused on the health and social issues affecting Memphians and the Mid-South community.
Hosts Betty Lamarr Lamarr invites you to tune in for the Eye on Memphis talk show. Eye on Memphis, wall-to-wall conversations with top doctors, community leaders, and people just like you, focused on the health and everyday human conditions in the Bluff City.